let's see, 1936 is when we started dating. Because I had just graduated from high school.
That's right. And by the way, you didn't ask me on our first date. Ross Blakely came and asked me, Martha, would you like to go with
I was too timid.
Betty and I, and Lee is coming, because he had a car. And I said, yeah, that would be fun. And so we did.
Who wouldn't love you? Who wouldn't care? You're so enchanting, people must stare. You're the dream that dreamers want to dream about. You're the breath of spring that lovers gad about or mad about. Who wouldn't love you? Who wouldn't buy the west side of heaven if you just winked your eye? You're the answer to my every prayer, darling. Who wouldn't love you? Who wouldn't care?
It was very natural for them to meet and fall in love, I think, with one another. And they each have strengths that help support the other person they have throughout their life, really. I think that's what makes a marriage, is being able to support one another.
Having parents that have been married 65 years is just such a rare thing. I mean, my parents still, when they walk together, they still hold their hands. When they're staying at our house, I can hear they're together all day long, but when I can hear them talking in bed for a long time, and I think they still have something to talk about late at night. And they've been together all day. I mean, that's so amazing.
You know, I look at them and the way that they live their life. You know, as long as I can remember, they've done more every day than most people, you know, who are 15 years old. So it's just really an incredible thing to watch them and just see how much they get out of life.
I think all of our family values come down from them, that, you know, family is really important. I think that when I chose Dave as my husband, I probably wanted someone like my grandpa. I think they were important in helping me figure out who I wanted to marry.
These are two of the nicest people in the world. I mean, they make friends easily. They love their friends. They do anything for their friends, as well as the family. And they're just kind of the Rock of Gibraltar to everybody that knows them. They're just terrific.
Do I kiss her again?
Oh. Let me kiss you. Oh, now that's it for today.
Raymond Lee Eggers was born on January 29, 1918, in Indianapolis, Indiana. Martha Louise Sigler was born on February 16, 1921, in Kansas City, Missouri. But luckily for them, both of their families moved to Colton, California, where they grew up and eventually met.
We rode the school bus together. She was 3 years, when I was in high school, she was in elementary school, I guess junior high school. She was 3 years behind me. But we rode the same school bus to school.
I was probably about in the 8th grade, and I noticed that every time when on the route, there would be some people that didn't have a seat, and so Lee would get up and give a girl, one of his seat. And I always kind of thought that was good of him, and I tried to get close by so he would get up and let me have his seat.
And we just attended the same church, and they had what they called the Thursday night club for young people.
Forgotten about that.
And that was when we started dating.
Lee courted Martha for 3 years while Martha finished high school, and Lee studied engineering and architecture at Riverside City College so that he could be close to Martha.
One evening we were driving to Riverside on the way to a show, and I told you I wanted to marry you sometime. I didn't say when. Well, we were still in school in those days.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't very romantic.
No, it wasn't. We were driving. And I just told her I wanted to marry her. Well, I didn't want her to start looking around with other guys.
Oh, thank you.
They were finally married on April 19, 1940, at a wedding chapel in Riverside.
It went very nicely. I just had a plain, it was a powder blue dress that I bought, and I had shoes to match, blue, and a blue hat with flowers on it, and Lee had a blue suit, so we'd match. All of our friends came. It was very nice, but Lee his folks had the reception at their house. Lee and I were very lucky because his parents were always very supportive of us, and my mother, I don't think I could have found a mother that was more loving than she, and she truly cared about anything that happened because...
Well, she was very supportive.
She really was. And all of my aunts were always that way, and my grandmother always... I was the only girl in the family for years and years, and so that made me special, and I really took advantage of it a lot of times. But the family background, I think, is very important.
After a weekend honeymoon, Martha and Lee immediately moved to San Diego, where Lee started working in the tool department at Convair, making parts for World War II military aircraft.
It was a good job, but the pay in those days wasn't all that great, but we did get...
about $25 a week.
Well, I know it got better.
Yeah, it did get
better.
better.
He eventually worked his way up to the structural engineering department, fulfilling one of his college dreams. Meanwhile, Martha set up their first home while living on rations.
The rationing included coffee, sugar, butter, anything like that was rationed. And so it was hard to cook without those kind of ingredients.
The war was on. Of course, we didn't expect the war. And we debated whether to have a child at that point, because if I had to go overseas, that wouldn't be great, to leave Martha with a brand new baby.
Martha and Lee didn't wait, though, and their first daughter, Patty, was born in 1943.
Finally, close to the end of the war, they did draft me to go into the Navy, and I was supposed to be a radar specialist. Well, the day I was supposed to report, I got a letter saying that the war was over. That was VJ Day, and I didn't have to report.
With the war going on at that time, it was a unique experience being involved with Convair for my dad, and then going on to architecture, which is what his dream was.
With the war over and a newborn to feed, Lee began his lifelong career as an architect.
There was an ad in the classifieds for a draftsman at this architect's office, Sam Hamill. So I applied and he hired me, and I took off from there.
In 1946, their second daughter, Dale, was born, and that's when they decided that it was time for a bigger house.
After we had Dale, she was about a year old, and we realized we needed a larger house. We started looking around, and we looked at houses all in this area, existing houses, and there were several for sale, and but we just couldn't find quite what we wanted at a price we thought we could afford. But we liked this lot, so we bought the lot. I remember we paid $2,500 for the lot. They allowed me to design the house. That was the understanding when we bought the lot. And I did, and I designed the house, and they built it for us.
Yes, they've been there since I was 5 years old. I moved in just in time to attend kindergarten at McKinley School. So that's pretty unique, really. They've been there. I'm 61 years old, so it'd be 56 years. It's just incredible.
Where we lived, almost everybody was the same age as my sister and I. And so there were a lot of kids in our neighborhood.
We still have a bell out in our family room, a brass bell up on the wall that faces the patio. And that's how I got them. I would ring that bell real loud, and they would be down the alley playing or someplace, and they'd know it's time to come home.
I remember that they worked very hard. They were trying to get ahead. And they were very much involved with the schools and helping us along with our homework. Dad was always involved with helping me with my math, and I grew up to be a math teacher, so he must have been somewhat successful.
I was always really proud that my dad was an architect. And I have to say, I still love to say to people, well, my dad's an architect.
He was always involved with helping us, and Mom was involved on a daily basis of, getting the lunch ready and that sort of thing.
She was just the perfect mom. And she sewed the dresses. She was so creative at everything. And my mom always loved to bake, and I think that's one of the reasons I like to bake too.
The kids always had a good time. We had a lot of little picnic lunches, and all the neighbors were good. Helene Benson was really good to all the kids, and Helene and I exchanged babysitting lots of times, and Stephen and Dale would take their nap together on our bed. And one time Dale started crying, and I went in to see what was the matter, and Stephen had bitten her real hard on the back. And I bit him a little bit back to show him it would hurt. And that evening, Helene called in and she said, "Mama, Stephen said you bit him." And I said, "Yeah, I did, Helene, and tomorrow I'll show you the marks on Dale's back was why I did it."